Hey everybody, this is Edwin. I'm just going to show you my new quad Cortex patches that I just made, and it's with the Vox style. And this is my quad Cortex, and this is just how I label it. And you're going to see my thought process, and I'm going to just open the little lid too, so I can show you my settings here and there on the patches. So here it is. Let me just show you the first stage. So this is the drive stage. As you can see, I put some labels on it just to help me remember certain things. Sometimes I do change it, but for the most part, keep it the same. So here we go. So this is on the Jazzmaster J Mascis Squier version. I'm using the Antiquity 2 pickups from Seymour Duncan's, and I am on the neck pickup right now. Tone knob is all the way up, and the volume knob is all the way up. I have set this to 75 on the volume on the quad Cortex, and so here it goes. Alright, so as I said before, I'm using the Vox, and this is my settings right here if you want to take a look at it. And I just put everything to a setting where I feel like it's going to give me a little bit of gain, and I can work with some overdrive pedals inside the quad Cortex. And yeah, just I put on the cool setting here. The hot is a little bit too much. I'll just show you real quick. And then versus the cool, although that did sound awesome. So yeah, I've been playing around with this tool a lot, where the hot setting, I do feel like you can use it as like a solo boost or a lead line boost if you want, but let me just strum now just to show you. So this is the cool first. Okay, now the hot. Now I do think this does still sound awesome, but just to get like a good, just clean amp tone or semi-clean, there's some gain on it. This is the best setting for me. So yeah, so I'm using the UKC30 top boost, so that's the one I'm using. And then yeah, you can check out the settings right here if you need it. The cab, I'm using the 212 UKC30 GB69, and I feel that a lot of people, when they show the quad Cortex and what amp they're using, I feel that they don't show the cab, and I found that when you actually use different cabs, it does matter to just get the sound you want. So I believe there's two types. There's like the UKC30 GB69, and there's a 65 version. I just like the 69 version a little bit better. I felt like the other ones didn't sound as I don't know how to say this. This sounds like there's like a little bit more push to the amp. The other one just more clean sounding. So another thing too, a lot of the quad Cortex settings on the mics, as you can see, I put dynamic 57 because in real life I would just use SM57 mics, and this is how I would actually position it in real life. So I would do like a really close to the middle setting, and then the other one I would do it closer to the middle-ish area, I would say. And I did not change the distance or the level, I just kept it the same pretty much. All I did was move the position, and so that really helps. So let me just demonstrate for you. I'm going to change the mic and just show you how it sounds. So I'm going to do the ribbon mic because that's like the setting that it comes with. So here we go. I mean, that sounds pretty good. So, but I like the 57. It's a little bit brighter, I believe. I mean, you can hardly notice it. I mean, nobody's gonna say, "Oh, you're using the 57 mic," but I just want to get more of a brighter sound because I care about clarity a lot. And the thing is, I do like the low end sound or the bass sound of the guitar, but when you're playing in a live band, it doesn't really have a lot of clarity to it. So that's why I did the 57. And so let's just move on. As you can see here, I don't have any overdrive pedals on, so I just kind of left it just the amp playing. Sometimes I feel like I want to put the overdrive pedal on just because it has more like meat to it or just more gain or more push. And that's the cool thing about the Vox amp because there's like a lot of clarity, a lot of top end, and like the overdrive pedal will just like push it. So I really like that sound. And so I'll just show you the overdrive setting now, and it's called the Klon. Well, it's not called the Klon, it's basically a Klon, though it's called the Myth Drive. And the cool thing about this pedal is I did an A/B test. I didn't do a video on this, but I did it with the Tumnus, the mini version, and man, I did it back and forth with that pedal, the Tumnus, and this. This is like really just like a clone of that. I mean, it really felt like I didn't even need that pedal. So I did buy the Tumnus because I really like Klon type pedals, but I just returned it basically because I felt like I didn't need it. This really does the job. So for me, a lot of the time, I just use like a Klon type pedal with the amp, and it just has that push or just the right, I don't know what it is, that right amount of frequency or the right amount of EQ that I need. A lot of people like the Tube Screamer, and I don't know why the Tube Screamer, it just sounds really muddy. Just that mid push, and that mid push is really good in front of a band mix. I'm not going to say that you shouldn't use the Tube Screamer, but just for like overall tone, for like strumming and rhythm, I feel like this is just better for me. So this is what it sounds like. So let me just go back and forth. So I'm going to use the drive, just amp. And then I'm going to use the drive plus. I should emphasize with the Klon. Or the Myth Drive, I should say. That's what it sounds like, and I put 0 gain on this one. Sometimes I like to do it at like 1. I mean, this puts a lot of gain on it, so I'm just going to show you real quick. So let me just do, actually without any gain. Just put out 1 again for you. I mean, I feel like I can really sense the gain on that. So let's just, for kicks, go even higher. Let's go like 4. And for the treble, sometimes I play around with that too. Sometimes it gets kind of bright, so let me just show you real quick. Let me just back this down to like 1 again, or around 1. Let me lower that again. So this kind of depends on the song that I'm playing with. If I really want that bright sound, then I just kind of leave it at the 5 area. But if I want it a little bit darker, then I just leave it in the 3-point area. And then just for kicks, let's just turn the gain up and let me turn the treble up. And then let's do it with the treble down. Yeah, so as you can see, it's very flexible. I mean, it really depends on the song, but I will just play around with the gain, the treble, and the level. The way I set it now is just going to be on the lower gain setting, basically, like 1 and below, and this is the treble kind of area. So, but yeah, if I want it brighter, then just bump it up, and it's fine. And the level, usually I just keep it the same, unless I need like a tremendous amount of volume boost. Alright, so before I dive into like the lead and the pog lead, I feel that I need to explain about just the overall tone. You probably noticed by now I put some delay and reverb on, and that is a part of the sound. And so I'm just going to show you real quick. So I use the tape delay. It just has that nice, clean, dark delay sound that I like. So here's an example. I really like this tape delay settings. I mean, I use the other ones that I checked out. I mean, all these are great too. They just have like this modulation thing going on, and like for example, like if you use like the delay, I'll just show you real quick here. Let me just bring that up. Hope it doesn't change my settings here. So delays. The digital delay, so let me just show you. The digital delay sounds good. It just has like a little bit brighter end, I would say. I don't know why the tape one just has a little bit more just darker sound to me. So I mean, they're really close. I mean, it's really hard to just tell. I'm just being very nitpicky, but sometimes I do use this delay as well. And just for kicks, I just want to show you another delay that's awesome. It's called a dual delay, and I mean, really, I feel like I should be using this because I do have 2 delays on. So let me just show you real quick. Alright, so let me just go back here. Alright, so we're back at the original settings that I had. So all that to say, this is the tape delay that I use. I put it on a more of a darker sound. Hardly noticeable, that's what I try to do. But still, you know, it's there, but not like taking over your guitar tone or your bass tone. Wow and flutter is really low. Sometimes I put it at 0. It's, you know, I just put a little bit just to give it some character, but sometimes I just take it out, like I said, just a simple tape delay. For the mix and feedback, I play around. Sometimes I put it like 30%, sometimes 40%. It really just depends. Sometimes I feel like I do want it like pronounced, so I put at 40. I mean, it can go really long too with the feedback. Let me just show you. Let me just show you the mix too. Yeah, so that's the mix, and it can get really crazy if you put it for a long time for the mix and the feedback. So generally around this area, I would say 30, 35, 40. So seems right for me. So that's pretty much it for the delay. And then there's the plate. And what I did was I put it to a place where there is just noticeable reverb. But the challenge is not to put the mix so high. I don't know about you, but I love reverb and I just want that reverb sound. But in a band setting, if you put too much reverb, you get really lost in the mix. And another thing I want to point out is even the mod depth. I remember I was playing live, and then the sound guy was like, "Hey, I feel like there's this warble thing that's happening with your guitar," and he did not like that. So the mod is super low, and really you just want to create some sort of reverb effect, and so I just put a lower setting to that. And I don't really know so much about like mixing in a live setting, but I assume if you have like a big auditorium or a room, that's gonna affect it too. So maybe there's already some type of reverb in there too when you're just playing naturally as the sound projects to the audience. So all that to say, you don't want too much reverb, maybe like 10-20%. I'm just being a little risky here, putting 30. So I'm gonna show you what it sounds like without the reverb. So you kind of know that it's there, like you really have to pay attention, but it's almost not there, so that's kind of how I want it as well. And so another thing I want to point out is the reverb plate. I believe I try to set it like on a more of a brighter sound. So the reverb is a little bit more noticeable than a darker sound. Well, if you do a darker sound, it's going to muddy up the mix. So I try to do the reverb on more of a brighter end, and the delay is on the darker end. So that's kind of how I balance things out. And the pre-delay, it's almost non-existent. Like I don't even put pre-delay. I just put 10 just for kicks. But for the most part, it's just working with like the mix and decay and just trying to get a brighter setting overall. And the mod more on the lower end, if not just nothing at all. So, but I like to add a little mod just because. Yeah, it may go too crazy with the warble, but let me just show you. It's really hard to hear, so let me just... It kind of does that warble thing. Versus nothing. Which is like pretty much just reverb without any warble thing going on. Okay, so that's the bass sound, and then that's pretty much it. Another thing is a compressor. If you want to just look at it, that's just a setting I have. I'm not married to this setting. I play around with it all the time, so I'm not too sure what's the best compressor setting, but that's the one I have right now. Alright, so let's just move on now. Let's go to the lead tone, and I'm just going to show you what I have. It's the rodent drive, which is like a rat basically. Probably like the two pedals that I like that I've used is like the Klon and some type of rat pedal. There was this other pedal I used a while back by JHS. It was called the Kilt, which I believe is also like a rat type pedal. but it was like brighter. So I really like this pedal for like punches. And what I mean by that, it's gonna just be like in your face when you hit it. So I'll just show you what it sounds like. So that's the distortion and the filter and the volume, and that's how it sounds like for the rodent drive. Sometimes I'll try to toy around with it. It really depends. Sometimes I wish there's a little bit more mid push to it, so maybe I'll play around with the EQ settings on that as well. But as far as like gain and just being really out there in the band, that's what I use. Alright, so the next one is the POG, and it's called the Poly Octaver, and so that's the one I use. This is setting. The octave, I play around with it. Sometimes at like 40, sometimes at 60 or 70. It just depends what I'm in the mood for. So I'll just show you different areas. Let me just show you 40 first. Yeah, so as you can see, it just becomes more just apparent that there is a octave pedal that is up, and I'm just testing out 70 now. Usually it's at 60 because I just like that sparkle on the top, and I have like a POG, the micro POG as well by EHX, and there's like this shimmer quality to it that I can't get with this effect pedal on the quad Cortex. There does seem to be this like shimmer thing that goes on, so that's why I upped the octave part. This gets a little crazy too with a sub, and I'll just show you what it sounds like. So I'm just gonna do 100 for kicks. I mean, it sounds awesome. Let me just turn off everything here. So back. Yeah, this works really well. I find that the sub just sounds really good, and just for kicks, let me just show you the octave one. Alright, and let me just show you the dry setting. I like to put it on 70 if I'm trying to mess around with this, so let me just put all this back. So sometimes I have it on this setting. So yeah, that's what I do with the dry setting. It just sounds more like synthy, or just, you can tell it's like organy as you lower the drive. Yeah, but this pedal is really good, or I should say the effect on this is really good, but yeah, the actual POG itself, I do feel like it sounds a little bit better, but it's not like, you know, night and day. It's like maybe 10% better. So, but this does the job. So alright, so let's move on now to more like the fun effects, and these are my favorite settings on the top. So let's go to clean here. I put this on the table, so I can't really use the volume pedal too well here, so I'll try my best. So this is what I do with the ambient clean. It's basically like a swell. And so what I do, I put that little, you know, the Jazzmaster, if you have it, it's, you know, you put that knob on the top with the top pickups on the guitar, and it just gives you that muted sound. So let me just show you real quick. So this is with that knob all working on the bottom area for the pickups. Alright, and then I'm gonna get that low end jazz sound, right? So I just turned that on. So that's what I use for the ambient clean. So here's what it sounds like. Alright, let's see if I can do it with my hand here. Alright, right there I just tried to use one of the knobs on my Jazzmaster, but it's not the best showcase for this example, but just showing you that's the swell I use for that one. And I'm trying to emulate like that Strymon cloud sound. I used to have the Big Sky, and this gets really close. I mean, it's almost there. It just has that brightness and also that lingering feeling that you get from the reverb, and I also am using different effect pedals. I'm using the shimmer, and then I'm also using the modulated, and this works better than the plate. I believe the algorithm or the effect is based on the plate on the Strymon Big Sky for the cloud, but for whatever reason the modulated just sounds better for that cloud like setting. And just to get more like top end shimmer sound, I put the shimmer up on this effect as well, so it just gives that sound. And sometimes I'll just like pick as well. And just to remind you, I'm going on that jazz setting right now, so all that treble is all gone now. But just for kicks, let me put it back on here. So as you can see, it's like a lot brighter. I just find that a little piercing, so I just turn that off. Or I should say turn on the jazz setting. Alright, so that's the swell or ambient clean that I use. And then now let's do the ambient drive here. So here we go. This is what it sounds like. And the ambient drive, I should explain, it's basically like it's more like there's gain on it, so the clon is up, but I use it to sustain a part. So there's like a chorus, and I just want like to ring out the note. That's what I use the ambient drive for. So I'll just show you real quick. And I really love this setting just because it's just really in your face with the ambient. And a couple pedals are on this one. The Pog, and let's see what else is there. There's that digital delay I was speaking about. Sometimes it's tape delay. I put on dotted 8, and then yeah, the bass sound is still there, but I up the feedback in the mix, and oh well, this one should be a little bit higher, so usually it's like this. Shimmer, and then also modulated. I think I did put this down just because it was getting a little too crazy, so but sometimes I'll put it up. Alright, so then the only thing I don't like about this setting is that I have it on currently. I think in the future I might just try to put more mids on this, because I do want it to be like in people's faces when I play it. It's like just a lot of ambient, but I do want more like gain and a push to this, so maybe I'll mess with this setting in the future, but that's the general sound, more for sustaining like on choruses. Okay, so for the chorus setting, let me just show you. So this is the one I'm using. I just use it just because it fills my purposes. All the chorus modulation on the quad Cortex, it's pretty darn good. I mean, like all the choruses that you ever want is on there. I'm not really a chorus guy, but sometimes just like in a worship setting, I just need to like have that sustain part in the verse. So like for example, I'm doing like triad stuff like this. Sometimes I'll just let that linger. I mean, it's hardly noticeable too. So that's what I have. So I did 90 mix, 150 for the rate. I don't sync it. The depth is 50, and I left all those at 0. I toy around with the reverb sometimes. Sometimes I just do the plate, but it sounds really dry if I just don't use the modulated, but I'll just show you real quick. So this is what it sounds like. And that sounds pretty good. I feel like that works, but I don't know why every time I play live, it just doesn't linger around long enough and doesn't pop out. But when I add like the reverb and more of that cloud setting, it just seems to stick out more. So it just kind of rings around there for a little while, and I feel like in a band setting it just helps more. But the chorus itself, it sounds really good. I mean, just what it sounds like. And I do need to mention again this cloud type setting. The reason why I like it more is because I'm really sustaining the whole time. I'm not doing like individual notes. I'm not picking really fast. It's just more like this. So has to sustain for a while. So that's why I like the modulated. But there will be times where I have to use the chorus, and I'll just put on the plate setting. Alright, so let's go to the trem delay, and I'm gonna just show you what I use it for. I don't use it to like strum or just to like pick. A lot of these, as you can tell, it's for like sustaining with like different effect styles. So this is like more of a sustained trem. So I'll show you what it sounds like. I'm gonna share the story for this. So there was this song by Jesus Culture called Burning Ones, and Jeffrey Cundy, he used like this tremolo, and it lasted a long time, and the tremolo was super fast. Some people like to use a trem effect for like subtle, but man, it was super apparent, and it just feels like this like spiral that is just coming at you. And so I really like that, and I wanted it like super fast. Possibly his was even faster on the rate, but it was definitely apparent. So I try to get that sound, so that's pretty much why I have this. I don't use this setting quite often. Usually it's like a song that's just very more like hard rock, and maybe I'm in the verse and I just need to like sustain a little longer, you know, so. Yeah, it's really not good for like strumming, so. Although that sounds cool, but that's not the purpose for it. It's really just to like, just ring out. Sometimes what I used to do for this tremolo effect, I sometimes just uh, use it at the very end of the song, because like, you know how the song rings out, and I'll just like, and I'll just like let that ring out for days, and it just kind of helps with like transitioning to the next song. So yeah, so those are all the top effects, and I think I forgot to mention this. All of these effects on the top, there is a second delay, so which is the digital delay, which is why I mentioned that when I was showing you the delay bass sound, there was that dual delay. I mean, really, that will just help with, you know, using two delays in one effect block. So that's the sound. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to just comment on the description below.